ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Brittingham.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. You know, your business, why are you doing it? You know, how is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, be steady.
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life.
All right. Well, welcome back to the show. I realize that this is episode 52 of the Big Ticket Life. So I think that's pretty cool. There's most podcasts, my amazing producer and production team at Cast Ahead, Chris Stone and his team, they've shared with me. Most podcasts don't hit 7 episodes, and here we are at 52. So thank you to my guests. Michelle, isn't that awesome?
That is totally awesome. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to do it without my team at Cast Ahead. And when Cast Ahead put, who's now handling my guest bookings, when they put Michelle in front of me, it's like, all right, she does CRM stuff, marketing, gets marketing, knows Infusionsoft like the back of her hand. In the things that came across my desk, I'm like, check. Let's get Michelle on. So, Michelle, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. So, you know, I said in my intro, and I feel maybe as a host, I've been a bad host. I've kind of strayed away at times from some of the focus of the show, but that's because the guests that come on are dynamic and I want to have them share their story and I can kind of bring that out through our talk. But one of the things that I believe in, the people I work with, I think there's a lot of greatness that comes from in business stability, business strength, and intrinsic and realized value comes from having complex systems, but they're shown to be so simple. And I think that's where good use of tools like CRMs, and this is not going to be a talk about Infusionsoft. For the love of God, we're not going there. Right? Right, Michelle?
And yet it will be.
Right.
All good.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I think when you look at it, as complex of a solution as something like Infusionsoft or any other CRM or any other business software tool you might use can be or is, there's greatness in making it work simply. We're front-facing people interacting with clients, customers, patients, whoever, interacting with other tools like your website, your commerce checkout, your shopping cart, your point of sale. When it's all put together and works simply, I think that's pretty beautiful. So let's have you jump in on that point and kind of share your thoughts around that.
Absolutely. Well, I think when I'm coaching somebody, it's all about the simplicity and the ease of execution. And when you can look at your business and you hone in on what is it that we want to accomplish in the end, do we want to have a complex business system, or do we really just, I just want 10 clients, pay me 10 grand a month, and I am done. Like, that's my, I just want the lifestyle. I want to be traveling when I want to work 10 hours a week. That's it. But if you're special kind of crazy like me and you go, no, I want to have 50 employees. I want to do this. I want to have clients all around the world. Well, then you need to have complex systems that can handle that. And I don't mean complex as in the kind of system that I initially created for my business, which I lovingly call Frankenware. And it was basically, I needed software to do this and software to do that, software to do this. And poor Frank was losing an eye and a limb and trying to hold them together. I happen to be fortunate enough that I have a partner in business and pleasure, as we like to say, who loves IT projects. He loves software. And I said, like, I don't have the wherewithal to take care of this. Can you take care of it? He goes, there's got to be an easier way to do this. He found Infusionsoft, or what's now Keep, and went, do you mind if I use that? I said, you can do whatever you want. For him, the clouds parted, the angels sang, and he's in his happy place with a beer and Infusionsoft. Like, I couldn't get more simplistic than that. And it's just because it makes things for the back end people so much easier when you have data integration, when you don't have dirty data. I love saying that, by the way. And it's just fun to be able to watch them play it like the Stradivarius that it is. And a lot of people get confused by it because they're playing in places in the software that they just shouldn't be. I should not be creating my own campaigns and or setting up affiliate links or any of that stuff. And I don't. I just ask somebody to do it. It gets done. And that is kind of the simple business that we want to have happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for a business owner, I mean, I would think anybody who's gravitated towards this show, who follows this show, tunes in, I would guess the Venn diagram of people who want to jump into like operating the Stradivarius system of whatever software they choose versus just profiting from it and having a better, more organized business life from it. That Venn diagram doesn't collide for my listeners. Like they're the beer in the background managing the data so it doesn't turn dirty. I love that term, dirty data. So we'll get to making what the show title of this episode was, making sense of online marketing. But I think this is a great way to start because we got to have a foundation of things. Some dirty data. What's that all about?
Well, dirty data happens when you have systems that need to talk to each other, but they don't. So you might have manual processing. You might have your accounting software doing one thing and somebody has to export that list, put it into your purchasing software and apply it there so that you have all the information. Somebody needs to be able to access it. As soon as you're doing things manually, as soon as you're, no offense, Xavier, but zapping things together, as soon as you're putting something in the middle in order to try and have a cohesive program, you probably don't. And it's to no fault of your own, but it usually happens when people have typos. They haven't spelled something properly. They give you a false address. There's multiple addresses for a single person, or there's one email address for multiple people. It just depends on the systems that you have and how you run your business. Hospitality is going to have certain issues. Plumbing companies are going to have different issues. It depends on kind of what you have and where you do it. But as soon as you start getting false information, that can be a problem. And trying to straighten it all out becomes an even bigger problem.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've recently spoken to an organization, really large sales mastermind type organization that has each front-facing salesperson creating their own tags.
Yeah.
Michelle's like, that O had some weight to it. It had some heft.
No, that is a really expensive business strategy, just saying. Yeah, and just on the tags alone, that's a really expensive business decision. And I don't think that these poor entrepreneurs, like if tech's not your thing, you're just like, well, why not? It makes it easier for them. We don't have to have all these stupid SOPs. Nobody has to be riding their butt for it. On one level, it totally makes sense why you would do it that way. But knowing what we know, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I just offered some insights from my basis of knowledge, and that's as far as it went because I'm not that solution provider. You and your company are those kinds of people, so maybe there's a referral there down the road. We'll see where they go. But the one thing that I'll say as we kind of wrap up this year, I've been remiss as the host of sharing out all the greatness that my guests want to give listeners. So I'm just going to go right to the chase now because it's right top of my mind. Michelle, if you like what she shared so far and will continue to share, we're only at about 20% of into our show, 25% in. But she's got something for you, a free website audit, $497 value, 40-page report about a website that actually works right and monetizes for you. So it's not just like this big digital business card. Go to awarenessstrategies.com/website-audit. And maybe producer Chris can throw that in the comments. So it's real easy, clickable for you. But if you're listening on audio, see, now I'm checking the boxes of good podcast hosts.
Hey,
right?
hey, look at you go.
So
Look at
if
you
you're
being
listening
coachable.
audio, yeah, because we do this in video and audio. If you're an audio person following, that's awarenessstrategies.com/website-audit. So on that note of, tools and how do you choose, I want to give a little analogy about the right tool in the right place in the right moment. And I think so many people lose sight of what their outcome is. So the little analogy, and maybe my microphone picked it up, maybe not. I'm a truck guy. I'm kind of like a closet redneck. Not afraid to say it.
Nice.
My son just left the house, so maybe the rumble from his 1995 Cherry F-150, the truck that I love, that I'm just trying to pass off my 2019 to him so I can drive it, rumbled off. And we work on it. We do some maintenance. We do some more advanced repairs together. I have some knowledge there, and he enjoys it with me. It's a good time together. The rear transmission output seal started leaking, had to be repaired. It sounds complicated. It's actually a very simple repair until you realize that the prior owner loved something called gasket seal, and on something that didn't need it, because as time goes on, that seal expands with heat, and that it locks in place as it is, but the heat expansion of it keeps it in place. Analogously to choosing the right tool, we fixed that. I had to beat the snot out of this old leaky seal with a hammer and a screwdriver. My son's eyeballs are flying out of his head. He's thinking I'm breaking his truck, that he's not going to be able to go out with his friends that night. I'm like, I got it. We go to put the new one in. Now, I knew the outcome. I knew we had to push it in, hammer it in, flush. That was the outcome I needed. The tool wasn't apparent right in front of me, but I found at the parts store an exhaust pipe reduction piece that fit the dimensions of the seal perfectly. So I knew the outcome, right? Mm-hmm. And I was able to find that tool because I knew what the outcome needed to be. Tap, 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 then flash fine. 15 minutes later, he's out the door with his friends. So I think we'll get to the marketing part of our time together, but I want you to share what's your recommendation? So somebody wants, all right, like I get, I need systems. I get complexity. I get it builds value in my business. I get the pain of bringing it all in. Yep. Go ahead.
I was going to say on the analogy, and I'm going to stick to it because you may appreciate this immensely. So we have a snowblower. I live in Canada. Mm-hmm. We have a snowblower, and it wasn't working. It was a hand-me-down from Brad's dad. And he said he was just going to throw it out because it didn't work. And I said, well, if we're going to throw it out because it doesn't work, do you mind if I go in there and start playing with it? And can we take apart the carburetor and just see whether or not we can clean it up and see what happens? So he took off the carburetor, pulls it apart. I start cleaning this. I'm like, should this be dirty? This looks really full. I'm thinking we need to clean this. And I'm feeling very girly going, oh my God, I'm cleaning shit. Like, really? Am I cleaning this? So I'm playing with it and he's helping me put it together. We put it back together and it works. And I'm super stoked. I'm like, yay, I get to go over the snowblower. And the analogy here is I could, well, the story's not finished yet. So Brad thinks that we should just go and buy a new carburetor because now this thing clearly works. If it had a new carburetor, it'd be fine. I'm thinking they're about $250. He goes and looks, $23. Gets brand new carburetor, pops it on. Thing works like a charm. Lovely. So if you look at your business this way, we spent the good part of 8 hours working on this thing. Both of us bill out at about $500 an hour for a $23 piece on a piece of that is about, I don't know, 15, 20-year-old. So we could have bought a new one for like $1,000 that was working charmingly well. Got rid of this one. Like
Yeah, I
all of
mean,
that, if it was a business decision, is an epic waste of time, money, effort, skill set. I mean, was it fun? Yeah,
yeah,
it was fun. And does it give me a good story? And do people go, wow, you took part of carburetor? Wow, look at me go.
right.
But from a business decision, it's a brutal one. If we had a landscaping business, there's no way in hell I would waste that much time on that, doing that thing. And that's, I think, the problem that people get into is they're worried about the dollars and cents. And I totally get that. I'm a business owner. I have been since I was 23 years old. I know how to put a company down faster than most people do. It's not a good skill, trust me. But it is a valuable skill in knowing what mistakes not to make and not to make quickly. And then there's, how do you build a $1 million company? How do you build a $10 million company? How do you build a $23 million company? And looking at the efficiencies of what is the end game here? Does this make sense financially? Does this make sense from an input perspective? And sometimes it makes more sense to spend a bit more money up front in order to get a long-term payoff in the back. And those are the kind of decisions you want to be making, not does my staff like playing in this software? Like, no offense, but nobody cares whether or not your admin likes the software that they're using. That's not their decision. It needs to be a business decision that is, what's my profitability? What are my expenses? Where is this going to get me in the end? And will it get me to where I want to go? Because I've worked with companies that are, $25, $100 million companies, and they're making decisions on what software they're going to use based on who uses it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And if you're listening to this, I want to drive home the point, Michelle and Brad, you're your husband, correct? That's what I'm understanding. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're both billed $500 an hour, 8 hours it took you on this job. You're there together. It's $8,000. You could have bought 8 snowblowers for $1,000.
We could have started a landscaping company.
You threw right. You could have bought a little trailer to put on your vehicle, a snowblower, some good shovels and wheelbarrows, etc. Yeah, you could have been in the game, but don't lose sight of that lesson. Like, you'll never get to that $1 million company. I understand, and you're sharing that empathy that, right now, you have to be that clean the carburetor person, but don't lose sight of the fact that you can't go and waste $8,000 of your value to affect business for a $23 part. Because if you do that 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year, you're never going to get to the big dream that you want of $1 million or 10 million bucks or whatever that number is. So yeah, I mean, I do what I do with my son for the time, for the connection, for the memory.
Now, if we're looking at the time spent together, it was an awesome experience with awesome stories. And I'm sure if I had started a landscaping company with a bunch of snowblowers with carburetors in them, I would have been a lot faster at taking them apart and cleaning them thereafter. Which may not have saved me money, or may not allowed me to be able to delegate thereafter. But yeah.
For me, it's about the time with my son, because, honestly, I wasn't living early on in my business life. I wasn't living the big ticket life where I put family first. Especially my oldest boy, I missed a lot of those firsts, and I'm making up for that now in as many ways as I can. So it's about that time, and I should be the last person bending down, crawling under vehicles, because my body's decrepit. Next, you'll see, if as a follower of the show, you'll see in January we'll have a couple shows pre-recorded because I'm having some pretty major surgery on my left leg. So I have no business crawling around on the ground on trucks and fixing them. None at all. But I do it for my son. But the point of all that, the point of Michelle's $23 carburetor and learning how to clean one and put it all back together, and the point of me banging away on my son's truck, scaring the crap out of him, but getting them fixed up, is you need to understand what the outcome is of the goal. Like, what does it look like? And you as the owner have to have clarity. Michelle, you said you can take feedback, you can take input in from your team about how they work, how they dovetail into the tool, but ultimately it's your decision. You need to have that clarity on what the outcome is, what the milestones are. So I'd like you to expand on that. Like, you work with a lot of people. Obviously, you're an Infusionsoft partner, but you can bring in a lot of different solutions to people. But talk about how to pick those tools, like some of your insights that you've seen. And we'll get to the marketing talk, which I can't wait for.
Yeah. 15 minutes from the end, we'll talk about the market. We are talking about the marketing. And I think that's the important thing to understand is that when it comes to digital marketing, it's not just about, who our ideal client is and what kind of opt-ins they want to have and what kind of content are we going to put out to them. It's looking at it from a business perspective of how do I want to run this company. So going back to my initial, if you just want 10 clients at 10 grand a year, you're perfectly happy living that laptop lifestyle. That is awesome. And then there is, if you have a manufacturing company, if you have a plumbing company with 15 trucks, if you have, a company that has a certain level of complexity to it, and how do you want that to grow? And it could be that you just want to compete with the Joneses, which is fine, or the Kardashians, whichever. That is totally cool. You can do that. And understanding what that big picture is, how are you going to implement that in the most efficient way possible so that you're ending up with the most profitable business? Because there's paying your staff well to do the job well, which is fantastic. And then there's things that just simply waste time, money, and effort. Going back to it, the inefficiencies of the systems. So having 4 different pieces of software that could be done in one system, it could be the way that the information travels from one person to the other, or how does one person access the information that they need without having too much access to too much data? And all of this comes back to having somebody that understands software and IT and advising you, not just selling you something. So the bane of my existence in the marketing industry right now is people are selling things, one, that doesn't really exist, 2, that they're working on and it'll be done soon after you make payments so that they can pay their staff.
Development teams.
I get. I get, but know that you're somebody who's experiment if that's the way you choose to run your business. And they're selling you a product and it may or may not function the way you think it does based on their answers. So my number one rule for people is ask more questions than you spend money, because asking more questions and finding out enough information so that you can make an educated decision is far more important than the sale in the end. And if to them, the sale in the end is the most important thing, run away, run fast.
Yep.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add to that about asking more questions than you spend money. And then this could be choosing a marketing tool to help power and be the foundation of your business. Yeah, this could be choosing brand partners and vendors, whatever. Lay out on paper, whiteboard, mind map software. I'm a paper pencil kind of guy. I got 2 right here, and I got 1 right here in the notebook that I haven't ripped out yet. I shared with Michelle earlier today, I was at a deposition for a vehicle that I own, and everybody's on laptops and computers, and I've got the printouts in front of me because I just where my mind goes. But map it out, whatever media you choose, whiteboard, paper, whatever. Map out what that journey's like. Map out what you envision with the new vendor partner, with the new software partner, with the new advertiser. Map that out. Be clear on what your goals are, because that outcome is going to matter when you are investing that money in the company. And if you can't get to that outcome, now it's just a waste. And there's one thing I don't like is waste. At all. When I host events, I don't host really many anymore, but I used to host more. We would get the hotel room and they'd have the snack baskets out and the sodas out. And, they billed us for all of them. I took them. I don't need free Cokes, but I paid for those Cokes. I took them. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Same with the granola bars and the cookies and all that stuff. I hate waste. And waste happens when you don't plan that outcome, when you don't plan that journey for success with whoever you're interfacing with. I think that's a real salient point for people to take away. So, Michelle, where do people get twisted up with marketing? Between online, offline, what is marketing? What's advertising? Set the table.
I think the biggest thing, first off, is to understand that there is a difference in face-to-face marketing than there is in digital marketing. Face-to-face marketing, I can say I help people build houses, and they'll go, "Oh, cool. What do you mean by that? What's a house?" And it's a very generalized conversation that we're having, and I can hone in. I can ask them questions of, have you ever built your own house before? Do you buy? Do you rent? And I can hone in my conversation to them according to where they're at. In the digital world, I have to start with the problem that they have and intrigue them to find out more and more and more until they find out that I build houses or whatever the case might be. So it's a different angle with which you look at the conversation from the get-go. The myriad of mistakes that people make in marketing itself tends to be either old school marketing, things that they learned 40 years ago from something where it was all about the brand. It was all about the thing. And they wanted the novelty of the thing. Now, that can still work for companies that have a brand, things like Lamborghini, Rolex. You can still have those, and it works just fine. But for the most part, even if you're the Kardashians, you got to build up that excitement. You've got to build up the intrigue of what is it that people want, and how do you help solve those problems for you? And they actually do it phenomenally well. There's another mistake that people make is what I like to call mirror marketing. And it's, I'm putting out there what I think I would want if I was buying my product. And for the most part, people like you aren't buying your product. For the most part, they'll either have different spending habits. They'll be in a different age group. They'll have a different understanding of whether it's technology. And, even though they're in a high-tech world, they still have a lot of paper taking notes.
I'm surrounded by tech right now, and I got paper in front of me.
Yeah. It's knowing these little nuances about your audience that makes a huge difference when it comes to the digital world and being able to get them in the right place. And there's a big word in marketing right now, which is hyper personalization. And it basically means that I want to know what's going on for me. I'm going to solve my problems. So if we were to go to a t-shirt shop and get black t-shirts, great. We might be able to hone in on that. But if we were at a hair salon, I'm probably going to look for different hair products than you are, or I'm going to look for a different way of getting my haircut. So I'm looking for haircuts for me, as opposed to if I'm looking for haircuts for you, I'm going to do a different search. And that becomes very pertinent in what you sell and how you sell it. So it's not that you have to only have one kind of niche client or avatar, but you have to have messages that hone in on that specific avatar that meet their needs in that moment, which is an interesting conundrum that we're coming up to. Somebody put it the most interesting way. It was, once upon a time, if you wanted to buy a Ford, you could buy any color you wanted as long as it was black. Now you can get any color on the planet. Some of them, have just been invented a week ago, and you can still get your car colored in that color, and you can have the stereo equipment, the sunroof, the everything. So there's so many options that you have to hone in on those one thing that one person wants. And the same thing is happening in the digital world right now with every company.
Yeah. So I made a handful of notes, and folks, I just always like to put this out every few episodes. You see me making notes. I'm not distracted. I'm not multitasking, because I think multitasking is
love notes.
not even doesn't work. But
right,
little love notes. Yeah, no, really, what I you dropped a Henry Ford quote on us about you can have any Ford you want so long as it's black. Another Henry Ford quote is, I use every part of the pig possible. So when I record these shows, I know you're not going to maybe sit down and catch a whole episode in one shot. And especially on video, I want to be a part of how people use video media today. I'm going to give you a reel. So that's what I do. I make these notes. So I just made like 4 really great notes related to marketing of what we just shared. And the one you hit on, last one, I want to start first, and maybe we'll work back. But you really hit on specificity of market. And it is massive. And I think when you relate it back 40, 50 years ago to brand, it comes down to the fact that we can't be Coke. We can't be Lamborghini. And, you've dropped Kardashians a couple times. A lot of people kind of laugh about that, but that family's very aware of the product they're selling. They're selling themselves. And they are very aware and very smart people. You don't get to $1 billion in revenue across a few of the heads in the family by being dumb. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know their very specific market. but specificity matters. Like for me, in my world, the clients I work with, I don't have the opt-ins and the upsell. I specifically target certain types of businesses, and I'm honed in on that. I narrow the field tremendously, and I give value and create connection through this kind of a media. But I think specificity is so important, and so many people lose sight of that. Where you talked about the brand awareness. No, brand is built, to me, brand's built one customer sale at a time, one learned interaction at a time, one mistake at a time, and you're constantly reinvesting those dollars from the sale or those pain points from what you learned. You're reinvesting back into what your brand means and who you specifically can best serve. So I love that you touched on specificity.
So when I'm looking at, even if you ran, say, a used car sales lot, awesome, fantastic. The issue is, if I see a black Lincoln and I want a black Lincoln, I got to click on the ad or whatever it is, and I want to go to the website and I want to see black Lincoln. I don't want to see a green Honda Civic, because as soon as I do, I'm out of there. That's not my kind of car. But the same thing happens when somebody sees a green Honda Civic. They want the green Honda Civic. They don't want a yellow one. They don't want a red one. They want that one. So you have to be able to create ads that are specifically targeted, and you're going through your ideal client's ideal journey to get there. The argument has been made, I think, for the last 50 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's this huge thing about Chevy versus Ford trucks.
Oh yeah, it's massive.
Right?
I don't like
and
those
if
guys.
you have
And
a
they don't like me.
dealership that happens to sell both, you want to walk a fine line on that, or pick one and then delve into it and go, hey, and we have your parts, and we have your this, and we have your that, so that your audience feels the love and affection when they get there, whether it's from a post that you've put up to your website, or to actually walking into your front doors and going, I'm home. Because as soon as they go, I'm home, then they're telling their friends, they know who the Ford guys are, and the Chevy people. They know that. And you want them to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That turns them into a raving fan. It's from somebody that's never met you before and clicks on an ad to somebody that becomes your raving fan. Is that messaging? Is that little piece of you that comes into it? If you couldn't care less whether you do Fords or Chevys, then great, do both and say, yep, everybody's welcome. And if you're like, hey, we could have a ton of fun with this, let's just go hard on one or the other. Great, go hard on it and have fun with it.
Well, you know, let's expand on that example, because I think you can be the seller of both Fords and Chevys. I think you can be the place where all Ford guys go, and I think you can be the same place where all Chevy guys go. You got three. Sorry, my hand's all jacked up. I just gave a claw. This hand's been busted up so many times.
Now you have 5.
I'll do it this way with this hand. 3. There's in that dealership example, and this translates to somebody selling something online. It doesn't matter. Just listen to the examples. You can be the place where people buy pickup trucks. Mm-hmm. You can be the place that 4 guys love and rekindle all their memories of Bigfoot as they grow up. Me. Okay. That's where it began with me. Or you can be a Chevy guy and always be second. Just kidding.
I knew I had some.
I don't know what Chevy guys like, but let's say my marketing person did. Mm-hmm. Those would be the 3 campaigns I would run, the 3 marketing assets I would create. And I'd create many assets around those 3 messages, those 3 connections of affinity. You want a truck because you're the weekend warrior that is doing that landscaping side hustle. Okay. Or you're a Ford guy and you're only ever going to be a Ford guy, or you're a Chevy guy, gal, and you're only going to be a Chevy guy or gal, whatever way you're going to go. But
if you're a Ford gal or you're a Chevy gal, the same thing can happen, which does bring us to your claw 5 options now. And then you can go to the family vehicles, and then you can go to there's a whole lot of ways that you can take this, but be conscious of it while you're doing it, because your audience is very conscious of it, right? I mentioned this for a very specific reason. It was to evoke some emotion on the other side of the monitor, and it worked, which is awesome. Yeah. And that's exactly what you want in marketing, right?
Yeah. Well, and I would add, people might be listening. Yeah, but how could a Chevy person talk to a Ford customer? Well, because now your sales process, you don't just wing it. You don't just let your team of 7 Right. You don't just let 7 salespeople show up today and bring in the nonsense of their morning into the day when you open up the doors at 10 a.m. Your sales process now says when anybody's on the lot, tell me what you love about trucks. Tell me what was the first memory you have of a pickup truck. And then be quiet. Yeah, exactly. And you let them talk. And if I were that potential customer, I'd be like, Bigfoot for me was just incredible as a kid, and that was my first love of trucks. And a smart salesperson would say, so you're a 4 guy. 100%. And then we're down that road.
Exactly. And then you know which aisle to go down. It makes it way easier.
Yeah. And I mean, this is where marketing becomes so much more than just that one word. Right. Because you can have a great marketing campaign. This now goes to, is it the marketing that's bad, or the leads that are bad? Is it the salespeople that are bad? Is it the back end support that's bad?
Well, and
you have to have that journey mapped out.
Bottleneck is always at the top of the bottle. We don't like to admit that, but it is. And if you as the owner, right, because the owner is the only one that gets to make these choices. They're the only one that gets to decide whether or not, we're turning this into a guy's shop, and the whole shop when you walk in is going to look like some dude's garage that we all have complete and total envy of. Like, that would make an awesome sales, showroom for starters. Mm-hmm. And it would allow you to hone in on the people. Now, there's nothing saying that if you're going to own that kind of place, that your wife can't open up one across the street and have it as a, the chick's place to go and do it, and have, pink camouflage and hunting gear in the back, which would still be epic and awesome. Like, it all depends on your personality and how you want to do it. But then it's your personality that trickles down no matter what, even if it's just kind of, a blue suit and a red tie, and that's how we're going to show up, and that's how everybody's going to show up. It still starts from the top and it works its way down. You're the one that has to make those business decisions as to who do we want to attract in here, and what kind of people are we going to get, and who do we have the most amount of fun selling to, whatever the definition of fun is for you. Because every day you're going to have to wake up and you're going to face these clients, and every day is going to seem like Groundhog Day after 20 years. So you have to make those decisions to bring in that lifestyle and everything. And like, my conversations always veer off from what is digital marketing to what kind of lifestyle are you trying to create here, because business is an extension of that. And I personally think that the more people can express themselves through their businesses, the more the world thrives. Even if you have a Chevy and Ford dealership right across the street from each other, it creates an ambiance. We have some fun with it. We learn that, just because you have your opinions, it's not the end of the world. We can have some back and forth. We can have a little fun with it. You can have 2 teams right across the street having those rivalries together, and being able to say, you know what? I absolutely love and adore my ideal market, and I'm going to cater to them because it's fun for me. And then I'm going to go shopping afterwards. Right. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, love it all. Love all of it. I mean, I think when you open the marketing conversation, it's really Pandora's box. That really is never ending. I think for me, there needs to be that commitment to constantly marketing, taking the actions of marketing, and always looking for like slight edge stuff. There's always places to improve. Like, there's always bottlenecks, and yeah, they're likely at the top. But maybe it's the top of this part of the business, or the top of this operational part of the business. So now it's the team you put in those positions. Talk about your, do you believe that that's a true statement, that there's always marketing to do around the marketing? There's always improvement to do around it.
There's always marketing to do around the marketing. There's this thing called an evergreen program that is the nirvana of SaaS, I think, is where it started, when it was software as a service. companies, they would build the software platform and be able to create a campaign for it and have people come into it constantly and constantly be buying, which is the nirvana of online sales. And we get that. And even in those, there really is no such thing as, I think they said, make it and leave it. But it's not so much that. It's being able to constantly look at what are the best practices, where is the market right now, how have things changed. And I think, obviously within the last 3 years, there's been a lot of changes. A lot of the word pivot doesn't become commonplace for no reason. We have to be looking at how things are modifying and adjusting and being able to get people with where they're at, because it comes back to when something's novel, we all dive into it and go like full bore into the way it is. But then as we get used to it, then we start to go, oh, I think I'll go this way. I think I'll go that way. Some people like to read more. Some people like to watch videos a lot. A lot of people like to watch videos a lot. Some people like to go and, listen to things, and they just want to hear it. They don't want to be distracted by the visuals of it. And then you start to look at, okay, who is our audience? How do they like to? Does this article really translate, or does this video really translate into words and article, or could we make it a little more oomph over here, right? Being able to bold things where somebody would naturally articulate something more urgently. It's being able to understand how somebody sees what we do, the way they see it, and what their norms are. So taking, for example, the website, and you're looking at it, it's set up in a certain way. I can look at a website and go, oh, this website was built in the 80s. That website was built in 2000. That website, I know, because there were certain ways of doing things that were normal at that time. And as audiences got more familiarized with going online, they started to expect seeing certain things in certain places. So there are kind of best practices according to what the audience has done in the past. But then you want to be looking at, where are the trends now and where are they going with this? So to us, marketing is a constant that you have to be looking at, and which is why we tend to partner with our clients, not doing just projects of one-off. So we have a very finite group of clients that we work with intensely to understand their strategies, where they're going, help them out with best practices, act as their CMO and their CIO, and being able to help them make complex decisions. And I totally understand that if kind of that's not your gamut, that you're going to have to figure out how do you get that bit of information when you're not going to be spending your time, focused solely on marketing campaigns or solely on software, or, and you can't. Right now we have over a dozen people on our team, and they all have their own specialties. They study their field of interest, and they bring back the tidbits to the team, and that's kind of how it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a handful of comments. Chet, somebody used to be a customer of mine way back. Chet goes back. Chet, good to see you. I know you've had some. You've had some setbacks from a health standpoint, but I'm glad to see you're on that road of recovery and getting there. So Chet talks. I mean, and this is kind of where we can create all these systems in a vacuum. He talks about giving salespeople leverage to connect with their customer through the lens of, you may want people in a suit and tie, but they do better in he says, a Hawaiian short sleeve. Yeah, I think you need to give some deference and some a little bit ability to move within the guide rails, I would say. In my retail business, I demand that the bookends be there, meaning our greeting, which I dropped a little bit of in the tell me word track. And then we need to ask for the sale. There are a couple other definite points in between, but if those two bookends are there and we execute on those bookends, the middle takes care of itself. But again, we understand what those things are in the middle. We clearly have mapped out what those bookends are in our in-person sales process. And we've kind of gone, we've always thought it's kind of silly in that business. That's a retail mattress store. We've kind of thought like our competitors wear suits and ties. Like my belief on suits and ties is they're for church and funerals. That's that's kind of my thing. Like in this podcast room and that closet over there is where all that stuff exists. And it probably has got an inch of dust on it because I haven't had any of that stuff for quite a while. Thankfully, that is funerals. That is, but for me, I think establishing those guide rails, again, it goes back to that identification of your journey, the journey in anything you're going to do. So if it's that face-to-face interaction, if it's, you said that evergreen solution in the SaaS world, you know, that marketing campaign that, you know, always works, you've got to have, okay, we understand what the goal is. We understand what the response is. We know to make this thing work, we got to mail this out. We got to make that phone call. We got to send these emails. We got to automate these texts to happen at these days, at these times. But then what happens in between those points can be a little squishy because, you know, we have to consider in a face-to-face environment the human element, that we still got to deal with people. And when we make people jump into that suit and tie, we might take away a little bit of their human element and they don't like their day so much. Anything like, what do you think of all that?
I totally agree. And it comes back down to what is the culture that you want to create in your company, and who is your ideal client and how do you want to approach them? Because clearly Chet's company with somebody in a Hawaiian shirt and somebody else in a suit is going to be a super eclectic business, which is fun and going to have I would think, a generalized audience so that somebody can come in and go, I want to work with the dude in the Hawaiian shirt, and that's fantastic. And somebody else might come in and say, okay, he looks very professional. I would like to work with him, which are two totally different personality types within a business, which is great. And again, it translates really well in the physical world. When it comes to the online marketing, they're going to be two different strains. So you might have one person monitoring one chat, somebody else monitoring another chat, to be able to address that, because those people are likely not only dressing differently, they're articulating their thoughts differently, and they're expressing themselves differently to their clientele, and their clientele expects them to do those things differently. And it's just, if you know that, that's fantastic and awesome. That works great.
Yeah. I mean, to drive it home to the online world where, you know, you live a little more in than not, is what I gather. You know, you might decide that your chatbot, to get people started, you might decide that your audience, you know, like for me, my kids drive me nuts the way they text me back. You is you, you know, like half the time it takes me twice the time to read it and understand it. Meanwhile, I'm typing out like an Oxford essay level grammar back at them. But your chatbot might be the Hawaiian shirt that relates to my kids. If that's your avatar, if that's your perfect client.
Yep.
Whereas if you're looking to, you know, create a solution and a service to help CPAs transition their business to the next generation, talking to them in a chatbot like their kid does, where it annoys them like it does me, probably not a good idea.
Exactly. So we're going through that process right now where we're figuring out kind of how we want to articulate that conversation. And my conclusion, and I'm hoping the team goes with me because, you know, it's going to be my decision in the end anyways, is we're going to use my dog as our point of contact. And it's like, hey, everybody's out of the office right now, but I'm totally happy to help you with whatever I can. And, you know, if I messed it up, sorry, but, you know, people will be around here in a couple hours. And to me, it was a fun way of saying, this is a bot. This is not real. This is not a person. There are no people in the office right now, and we will get people to you when the people come. But that's my personality. I totally would put out my dog as our front customer service personnel. Some companies wouldn't. And my clientele also appreciates that and goes, oh, okay, you're not trying to tell me that your bot is a person. Like, they want that authenticity, and they don't mind a little bit of fun, and we can carry on the conversation from there.
Yeah. And what's your dog's name?
Arlo.
Arlo. I mean, here's the thing about marketing. And this is a line out of Mad Men. Draper says to one of the clients at one point, the client's like wowed and impressed. And he says, well, you know, this isn't science. We're going to try it. We'll know when they spend their money. Exactly. So you'll know that Arlo, the chatbot dog, is going to work. You know, Arlo works in real life. He's your dog, but you'll know he'll work in that vacuum of that bot in that moment. You'll know when the emails and the responses and the phone calls come back with, what's Arlo up to today?
Right.
You'll know that connection was made. And now you'll know you're marketing at a really great level. I've had somebody else commenting, Chris, dear friend, runs a great agency as well, Media Twist Group, that does all kinds of cool stuff in the metaverse and, like the digital forefront of 2022 into 2023. I mean, here's somebody that takes that whole digital aspect, but makes it real. I talked about my love of Ford, my affinity to Fords, even though their current truck in my driveway is doing everything it can to undo that relationship. I'll move on. Chris had the opportunity to take me to see one of the current Bigfoot truck models and the current driver. And it was just a great experience. And I think you can have so many good things in your business, but if you're not looking for ways to create that connective experience beyond the media you work in, I think you're missing out. Now, you can't do it with everybody, and you can't do it with a $50 a month, bolt-on software solution client per se. But you should be, again, mapping out that journey, especially if you're that person that wants $10,000 a month clients, or a year clients, whatever, those people, you need to be real important to like 8 of them all the time, because otherwise you're only going to keep 2 and you'll always be searching for 8. So as we look to maybe wrap up our time, I don't say maybe, we kind of wrap up at the top of the hour. And I've loved jamming with you for sure. This has been a great conversation. What are ways that you've kind of created that special experience in your world? Maybe some of the things in your business or businesses or the clients you work with, some of those special moments of connection.
Right. Well, one of the things that our staff loves to do is kind of hop onto the seasons. So we are big into the Christmas promo right now, which kind of seems silly. So almost all of our stuff will have snowflakes on it, or Santa Clauses, or Christmas trees, or elves, or baby Jesus, whatever aspect they want to bring into the holidays, which is kind of funny because some of them aren't even like they're it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's fun. So we as a company celebrate all holidays, regardless of religion, because any excuse to celebrate is a good excuse as far as I'm concerned. So right now, they're putting fun stuff in there. And to me, it allows them to bring out their creativity and their spontaneity. It brings an extra, they know how to do the job, but now it gets to be a little bit more fun. And I think that's important, because the seasons and the holidays give us almost an excuse every month to do something different and bring some different aspect into it that makes it a little more spontaneous. It makes it a little more their personalization. And to us, we always want to be looking at what strengths do you have that you want to bring into the company? Are you still having fun doing your job? Is there anything, if we have something that's like, hey, we need somebody to do this, and does this sound super appealing to anyone? And we'll let anybody take on the job, even though we think it might better suit, Tom or Paul. It's who wants to do it, and can we have a little fun with it? And that's how we're bringing it out to the team, and then they bring it out to our audience. And I think our audience sees that, appreciates it, and it's just a little bit different. It's a little more personalized to them.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is chiming in how he sells memories at Media Twist, not marketing. Makes no sense to the bottom line, but we spend money anyway. My mentor and friend, Dan Kennedy, there's sentiments there echoing through Chris, so to say, from Dan. And it's like, why wouldn't you do things like that? Especially for clients, customers, patients, whatever you call them in your business. Why wouldn't you do things for that, for them? I was lamenting to my wife, I want to continue to create a place where we give out gifts to our customers in the retail business. Because you spend $6, $8, $10,000 with us, whatever it is, $4,000, $1,500, doesn't matter. You leave with a sheet of paper, the invoice, or maybe you're just a paperless person, unlike me, and you're happy to have us email it to you, which we do. So now you leave with nothing.
And they got nothing.
You just gave these guys this money, and now it's going to be a week or so till you get your product. Like, that's not a good feeling. Mm-hmm. So we've created a process where we got to get the gifts out. These cost us money. You get to be the giver of gifts. I'm not asking you as the salesperson to chip into the pot for those gifts. I just want you to give them because it means something. The intentionality of it is important. It's all
And
means
how many
something.
times have you gone to a store or have you bought a thing and it's never about the thing, right? Even the story of the carburetor wasn't about the carburetor. Like it was the experience of being able to buy a carburetor and getting it for less and being able to pop it on there. I mean, if we can create in good marketing copy, you want to have an emotional involvement with that. But if you can create a memory for people, you are taking that up a notch that is epic and fantastic. And I think it's a great note to leave people on, especially going into the holidays, is how do you just leave somebody with a little something that allows them to go, oh man, I had the greatest thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's being spontaneous and just saying that thing that you were thinking. And sometimes it's putting concentrated thought into what can we do for them. It's your personality that comes in.
I love it. We're going to end there on a little something.
Hey.
Give your people, give your patients, clients, customers, and your team. Don't forget your team this time of year. Give them a little something too. Because they, you don't go anywhere alone. You go further together. But Michelle, this has been like a joy. One of the better conversations I've had as of late. Maybe listeners felt that energy coming through. I hope it went both ways. I hope you enjoyed your time here, Michelle.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Again, you can get Michelle's gift to you, awarenessstrategies.com/website-audit. If you're watching, it's all typed out on screen for you, real easy, from our great team at Cast Ahead. If you need anything podcasting, check them out. But this has been great. Show's live now, living on the internet now. It'll hit audio here in a week later. And thanks so much for hanging out. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It was super fun.
Yep. And if you want to get a hold of Michelle, I guess I should say, where do people just get a hold of you? If they just kind of want to go right to you, how would they get a hold of you?
Sad as it sounds, Facebook.
Okay.
I'm always on Facebook.
We're
also Messenger.
Yep.
Absolutely, either my private page or public page or business page, where we are always there, and I will always get that message.
Perfect. And all those links are with the show notes. So if you're driving, don't go scribble anything down. Be safe. They're right in the notes. And if you're looking here online, they're right in the notes with this post. And we make it easy to connect with the great people we bring to you. So Michelle, thank you for helping me to wrap out the year.
Yay!
We started on a high note. We ended on a high note. We had great high notes in between. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate you too. Happy holidays.
Right. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you as well. All right. We'll see you next time on The Big Ticket Life. Take care.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of The Big Ticket Life. You've heard from another amazing guest living their own big ticket life, and now it's time to live yours. First, I'd love for you to take me up on my free gift to you. Claim your gift at gift.thebigticketlife.live. That's gift.thebigticketlife.live. See, all your life, you've been told what is and what isn't possible by the loudest voices from the cheapest seats. It's time to finally do life and business on your terms. Sure, you've heard similar things, but without clarity on what can be done, it's easy to have your customers, employees, maybe even partners, and your spouse keep you from truly living a big ticket life. My big ticket methods shift you into that investor seat in your business, away from commodity and away from competition, into a market of one, so you can finally live your own big ticket life. So my gift to you is for you to book your discovery call today, where we'll uncover first the Chivo behaviors, those chief everything officer behaviors that hold you back, and why moving into the investor seat in your own business is critical. 2, we'll uncover the premium position that's up for grabs right now in your market that you're missing out on. And 3, which big ticket methodologies are just waiting to be dropped into your business to explode your sales and profits. So again, thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love for you to take action right now. Accept this gift, book your call, go to gift.thebigticketlife.live. Again, that's gift.thebigticketlife.live.